So I'm going to talk about 3 examples today. One is assessing graphics using a rubric in a digital media course. The second is assessing teamwork using a survey in a project-based course. And the third is assessing conceptual knowledge using written Blackboard entries in a seminar course. And I'm going to walk you through each of those steps of assessment and show you what that looks like in practice. So first, you might have an intuition or a question or curiosity about why some students are struggling with how to incorporate images or graphics into their videos. Say you're teaching a digital media course. So you'll choose an outcome or a topic to assess, so in this case, graphics. And you might have a written outcome of that course as a result of this course, students will be able to effectively incorporate graphics into a video project that reinforces key points or messages. Now, if you don't have that written as a stated outcome of your course, but you still want to investigate it, your topic is graphics. So the evidence. I would use a rubric to grade the video projects, where using graphics is one criterion, and the rating scale is something between excellent to unsatisfactory. I would sort the results of the student results of that criterion maybe on a spreadsheet, and look who is at the lower end of the scale versus who is on the upper end of the scale. Then I would maybe ask the director or the course director about the backgrounds of the students from their transcripts or applications into the program, and see if you can see some commonalities with their pre-course experiences. You might find there are commonalities in the background among the students that are at the low end of that graphics use scale versus the upper end of that graphics use scale. So you would conclude that their background experiences maybe have an effect on their learning in the course. So the conclusion that you could draw from that is that you might need to know more about the experiences of the students before they enter the course. And my action would be, I'll conduct a pre-assessment or skills inventory at the beginning. A second example is using a survey. So my intuition would say, I'm not sure students work well together on group projects in this course. My outcome, or my topic, written here as an outcome, is students will be able to effectively work with others on a group project or assignment. The evidence I gather in this case is that I would create a simple questionnaire that asks students to rate the effectiveness of their group, how many of their group participated actively in their opinion, and were they prepared for meetings, explain what worked and didn't work, and make suggestions of how to improve the teamwork. So it was about 6 questions, very short survey. I sorted the responses by group and found that the groups that rated effectiveness highly also rated active participation and preparedness highly. I think that's kind of common sense. I found they also had the most suggestions of how to improve teamwork. So the conclusion I would draw from that is that those groups that are more prepared to work together have more members that actively participate. They feel more effective. I also used some of the students' suggestions to add a mini lesson on successful teamwork to my lesson plan. So I felt that teaching students how to be successful team members was just as important as learning the concepts and the skills of the course. A third example is using Blackboard discussions and responses as a source of student learning. So my intuition would say, I don't think students are making connections between what they're learning in the course and their own experiences. So the outcome or the topic would be, students will be able to discuss fundamental concepts and theories of creativity through real-life examples. This is an example from a creativity and creative thinking course. So my evidence is, I created a pre-course essay or reflective statements for students to write on creativity. I also had them do a post-course writing on the same topic. I compared their pre-essay to their post-course essay to see how their thinking changed, and if they made deeper connections to their own experiences in their post-course essays or at the end of the course. So the finding is that I saw that students from traditionally creative fields made deeper connections to their own experiences. And when I say traditionally creative, this was a mixed course, and those students were coming from design or from architecture, from music. And that students from other disciplines had more difficulty making connections. And perhaps more importantly, they didn't identify themselves as creative in their pre-course essays. So the conclusion that I would draw from that is that students' conceptions of creativity are very discipline-oriented. The action is that I wanted to focus more on everyday creativity in my course. And to do that, I needed to provide real-life examples of everyday creativity so students understood how creativity manifests in their everyday lives.